let me tell you, nobody wins when they're running on tax increases. And she is literally running on the largest tax increase in American history. If they allow the Trump tax cuts to expire, Americans are going to get buried. Middle-class families are going to get buried. Small businesses are going to get buried. And then on top of that, she's coming out with these things like an unrealized gains tax. The more we can make this about issues, the better off it's going to be. And just listen, remember what she said yesterday? She's saying, oh, we have real problems. We have a real problem at the border. For 3.5 years, she was telling us the border wasn't a problem.
All right, guys, I hope you had a good weekend. I did. I was out celebrating my 35th high school reunion. Oh, man, did I feel old. And got to go to the Saturday night wedding of our good friend and longtime supporter, worker, Katie Armstrong. Congratulations to the Arnolds. I think that's as much as Katie wants me to say. Anyway, we've got a lot to get into today. 36 days until the election. Wow, wow, wow. A big week headed your way. Big week. Tomorrow's a VP debate. We will go live on YouTube during the debate. Watch it with us to do analysis, and then right afterwards we'll do that. Wednesday, Chicks on the Right. And as I promised, every Wednesday going forward, we'll be doing the Road to 270. Friday, Michael Whatley, chair of the RNC. I mean, it is going to be I'm just telling you this right now. Do not miss an episode. We've got you covered all through the election. It's going to be amazing. I put it this way. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but I've been calling in every favor, and you are going to benefit from this. Pollsters, candidates, you know what I'm talking about. They're coming your way, so hit that notification and subscription button now. All right, I'm going to go over all these new polls with Trump pollster Jim McLaughlin. We're going to run through the battleground states so you're up to speed ahead of Wednesday's Road to 270. Again, this is where you're going to find out what the Trump campaign thinks of these battleground states. And these plus or minus 93 electoral votes that are really going to determine the election. As I mentioned, tomorrow, the VP debate, we will be going live. Tim Murtaugh, senior advisor to the Trump campaign, is joining us ahead of the debate to tell us about what they're doing to get ready, what they expect, etc. Kamala went to the border on Friday. I'm going to break that down in just a second. Before I do that, I want to tell you guys, I mean, it's been a stressful time. We all know that. And a lot of us have stomach issues, but probably it's not because of the election. So many of us have major gut issues. You know that 70 to 80% of us have an unhealthy gut. I know that's kind of not really what you want to hear right now, but it's true. So many of the things that affect us, bloating, constipation, indigestion, all that comes from an unhealthy gut. Two of the things that I have done to change that are try and use on a daily basis the Just Thrive products. I use both the Just Thrive the Just Calm from Just Thrive, as well as their probiotic. Here's the cool thing. I had Tina Anderson on a few weeks back. Go check out the episode if you want to know what I'm talking about here. But Tina was really interesting because she let me know. I've been taking a probiotic for, 5 years. And I realized that not all probiotics are made the same. In fact, most probiotics 90% of them don't get through the stomach to the intestine where they're supposed to go. Just Thrive's probiotic actually is backed by more market research and tests than anything else in the market. It actually does what it's supposed to do. Because if you're going to take it, maybe that's a good idea, right? To have it actually get where it's supposed to and do what it's supposed to. Because your healthy gut is more than just your stomach. It's your mood, your skin, your sleep, all of that. So take a probiotic that's actually going to help you get done what it's supposed to do. I mean, that's the smartest thing ever. It's episode 198. If you want to hear Tina Anderson go talk about the benefits to this and the science and the research that it's all come down to. And for a limited time, you can try both the Just Calm and the probiotic. If you go to justthrivehealth.com, you can save 20% on your first order. Use promo code SPICER. Now, I will tell you this. The probiotic is the pill. It also comes in a gummy. I love the gummy. Do what you want to do, but the gummy tastes like candy, and I love candy. So go to justthrivehealth.com/Spicer. Use promo code Spicer and get 20% off your first. Thought was interesting. Before we get to Jim McLaughlin and the polls and where we are in each of these battleground states in Trump's path to 270s. I want to tell you, it was interesting. The two big issues, I'm going to talk to Jim McLaughlin about this, the economy and immigration, right? So she's been talking about Harris has been talking about the economy. But then she went to the border on Friday to pretend suddenly like she cared. She proposed all this stuff that she hasn't talked about or done or cared about the last 3.5 years. The Border Patrol Union, though, boom, boom, boom. They came out swinging, right? Check this out. This is the first tweet they put out. Vice President Harris has ignored the border problem she created for over 3 years. She goes down there for 20-minute photo op and decides to repeat some of the things that the National Border Patrol Council has said before. But again, where has she been the last 3 years? Oh, they're not done. They're not done. Then they go on. Fact check on Harris's speech in Douglas, Arizona today. Vice President Harris claimed that she played a role in increasing Border Patrol agency overtime pay. This couldn't be further from the truth. As with all things border related, she was nowhere to be found when we need her. That's from the Border Patrol. They are so trying to gaslight them, everyone. They're like, oh, suddenly we care about the border. You were in charge. You didn't show up. You didn't do anything. And now suddenly you're the one that's proposing all these things and criticizing Donald Trump, the guy who wanted to campaign on this, the guy who built a wall, the guy who made it a big deal, the guy who supports mass deportations and supports all that guy. Yeah, he's the bad guy and you're the right person. Don't buy it. They came out swinging again, by the way. They put out, Vice President Harris asserted in Arizona that CBP needed more resources. We have apprehended over 8 million illegal immigrants over the last 4 years. And now you realize we need more help 38 days before the election. By the way, the Trump campaign also went nuts. They put out a fact sheet. Kamala Harris promised to protect our nation's sovereignty and secure our border after she delivered 20 million illegal. I mean, they just went boom, boom, boom. Kamala Harris pretended to be interested in the border, which previously derided as un-American and a vanity project. Remember, this is a woman who talks about transgender surgeries for people who taxpayer finance to come into the country illegally. This is a person who said that we should decriminalize the border. This is over and over again. It's not, you can't just flip-flop like this and act like nothing happened. But I mean, literally, it's, a box checking exercise. All right, I want to bring in Jim McLaughlin from the campaign. Big hurricane happening. I hope everybody down there is safe and getting the resources you need. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the people affected by Hurricane Helene, but obviously we need to look at the political impact of this. I'll talk to Jim about how this affects North Carolina and Georgia. So we'll get into all that. Jim McLaughlin, Trump pollster, coming right up. Before I do that, I really want to tell you about a great guy that's been out there, and if you've been watching the show for a long time, about my friend Leo Grillo. He's the founder of Delta Rescue. Done amazing jobs rescuing abandoned, neglected, abused animals, dogs, cats, horses, birds. If you go to deltarescue.org, you will see what I'm talking about. The videos kind of catalog not just the work that they do, but the evolution and the growth of Delta Rescue under Leo. What started with rescuing one dog, a Doberman, he named Delta, by the way, has now grown into this massive effort, a no-kill sanctuary for life, because of Leo Grillo's efforts and work. And we can do our part to help this. If you're a dog lover or an animal lover or a rescuer, please go to deltarescue.org and think about making a contribution to help this, because he doesn't take government money. He needs our help to do this amazing work. More importantly, what Leo has asked is that if you can go to the estate planning kit, download it. Just download it. Look at it. Take a look and pray on it. Think about it. If you can make Delta Rescue part of your legacy, your estate when you go, and it could just be stocks or, some part of your estate. It doesn't matter. But the mission that Leo has created, hopefully, is one that can endure for a lifetime. Please download it. Just think about it. Take a look at it. deltarescue.org, that estate planning kit. All right. Without further ado, let me bring in the founder and CEO of McLaughlin Polling, Jim McLaughlin, Trump's pollster. Here we go. Hey, Jim, thanks for joining us this morning. We are into this final stretch, 36 days. Before I get into the states, though, I want to ask you a couple, the questions I get all the time. And one of the big ones is, there's this history of Trump underperforming in the public polls, okay? The question is, has that been adjusted? What we're looking at now, when we see these public polls, how much of it is been taken care of, compensated for, however you want to put it, or how much of it does still underrepresent Trump's support in the states?
Yeah, and I don't think it's just the overall underperformance. I think it's also a function of knowing how to read polls. And
What do you mean by that?
this might be a little too far in the weeds, but when you look at those few undecided voters, I was just talking to one of my campaigns in the Battleground states about this, is when you look at those few undecideds, and it was why one of the reasons I was crazy enough to say that Donald Trump could win back in 2016 was literally the Thursday before Election Day. We got a poll back in Pennsylvania, and it was a literal tie. But when you looked at those few 3-4% that are undecided, sometimes we'll see as little as 2%. They overwhelmingly disapprove of the job that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are doing. They overwhelmingly tell you the country is off on the wrong track. And they also overwhelmingly tell you that they want change. And Donald Trump's job approval rating is usually pretty good with these folks. And a lot of times I think those are those shy Trump voters. But I still think we're seeing in some of these polls where they're undersampling Republicans, they're undersampling Trump voters. Like when you get a survey back and they're telling you that in a battleground state that only like 39 to 42% of their sample actually voted for Donald Trump back in 2020, that's telling you they're undersampling Trump voters.
Okay. But you've always, sometimes when you come on, I'll throw out a poll to you. The New York Times, Siena, Quinnipiac, and you'll say, Sean, look at the sample size of that. They've got 90% Democrats, 10% Republicans. Of course, it's. Are you seeing that sample get fixed, or is it still a problem in a lot of cases?
It's better. It's better than it was, but it's still not perfect. Because, I'll give you an example. State like Pennsylvania that we just talked about, okay? We got a pretty good idea because they register by party there. We know it'll probably be about plus 2% Democrat, give or take. Okay. But sometimes you're seeing in these polls where the Democrats outnumber Republicans by about 6 points. And basically, every one of those extra points you give to the Democrat is kind of supercharging the whether it's Kamala Harris or a Bob Casey. Like, I really believe from what I'm seeing right now in a place like Pennsylvania, I think Donald Trump's going to win Pennsylvania. And I also think Dave McCormick's probably going to win Pennsylvania.
They're running a great campaign. I'm telling you. That's my I wouldn't say sleeper, because sleeper implies that no one's seeing it. And I think obviously you're pointing it out, but I think a lot of people are saying McCormick. I feel good about that one for the reasons that you just mentioned. And we'll get into the states in just a sec. Let me just ask you this, though, because the other thing that I think is interesting is when you talk to people about the two biggest issues, immigration and the economy both come up, right?
Yeah.
Harris clearly gets that. I mean, they see the same data that you and I are talking about because she keeps talking about the economy. She made this visit to the border. You and I both know, I mean, and people who are watching this are like, you've got to be kidding me. But at the end of the day, there's enough people who are persuaded by that. Or are they? I guess is the question I would ask you, is that are these tactics and these speeches and these ads having an effect in closing the gap where she's got an issue problem?
Oh, look, the reason she's been forced to do this, because in the beginning, you notice she didn't really want to talk about inflation, especially in the economy and immigration, but she sees her weaknesses. Because what's happened is she got her little, she got the quote unquote little bump, from the convention and her announcement. She hadn't been put under scrutiny, but now the voters are learning more and more about her economic plans. And she basically gave us like two originals saying, this is what my economic plan was going to be. And then she had to give us a third one again last week. Why? Because the people that were seeing her economic plans don't like it. And let me tell you, nobody wins when they're running on tax increases. And she is literally running on the largest tax increase in American history. If they allow the Trump tax cuts to expire, Americans are going to get buried. Middle-class families are going to get buried. Small businesses are going to get buried. And then on top of that, she's coming out with these things like an unrealized gains tax. Now, she says it's only going to...
Do you think that people, that's what I think is so interesting, is that anybody with a brain, I think, understands this. I get asked all the time about policy versus personal. Like, Trump wins on the policies because
Yes.
people, if you care
Yes.
about policy, Jim, whether it's the immigration, border, tax issues that you just brought up, you're with us, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the people who are like, I don't like how he called her this or the name call. I mean, if that's who you are, I don't think, I just don't, we can't help you. You can't fix stupid.
It's
But
it's
I don't know.
you're 100% correct there. And that's what we want to do in the Trump campaign. The more we can make this about issues, the better off it's going to be. And just listen, remember what she said yesterday? She's saying, oh, we have real problems. We have a real problem at the border. For 3.5 years, she was telling us the border wasn't a problem.
But how does that's to me, this is like walking in and I mean, imagine walking into a supermarket and for 3 years being like, I'm never buying that product because it tastes disgusting, right? And then suddenly somebody handing it to you and saying, it's new, it tastes great. You're like, what? Yeah. It's the same exact thing. That's just, I'm not buying the marketing, but that's what they're trying to do is to say, she went down to the border and she's like, we need more of this, we need more of that. And I'm like, wait a second. You literally were on air over and over again. The clip has gone viral of her saying the border is secure. She was saying that to Chuck Todd. Yeah. And now it's like, it's not secure and here's everything we need to do. I'm going, oh my God, or do you really think that we're that stupid?
They do. I mean, whether it was Joe Biden for 3.5 years, them telling, oh no, he's great, we can't keep up with him, and lying about that. And all of a sudden, that's not even an issue anymore to the Democrats. And then they came out with this joy and vibe thing. And then they found out the joy and vibe thing wasn't really selling a lot. One of the things I think that's going to happen, just like what we were talking about, those undecided voters, I think it could be similar to 1980. Now, different kind of election, obviously, back in 1980, but all the polls had the race tied, back then between Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan. But at the end of the day, Ronald Reagan won by about 9 points because those undecided voters, those persuadable voters at the end, and plus he got a turnout bump, they came out for him. And I think that's one of the things you're going to have now because look, it was funny. I was with President Trump at the event in New York, last week or the week before. And I've been to a lot of Trump rallies over the years. I have never seen anything like it. You had 20,000 people inside the arena all over the place. I'm getting texts, emails, phone calls, people trying to get in. There must have been 25, 30,000 people outside in the People's Republic of New York. I mean, it was just incredible. That's the kind of energy, the emotion. Kamala Harris just can't generate that. No. I mean, what's going on. They're literally busing people in from Massachusetts to go to her New Hampshire rallies.
But all right. So since you're mentioning some states, let's get into them because this is what it really matters to. So I want to start with what I think are the Trump strongest states. So in my opinion, of the 7 battleground states, you tell me if I'm wrong, I believe that Arizona is the likeliest to come home to Trump. Right now, when you look at like where Nate Silver and a bunch of these guys have their race, they have him up. Or the RCP average has Trump up 2 points. It's 49.3 to 47.1. I kind of look at that and say, and I'm just looking at the trend line here real quick, but that's where I kind of, you tell me, am I missing anything in that race?
No, I
in that state.
I think Donald Trump is going to win Arizona. It's just a question of by how much. And you know what the beautiful thing is? You know why he's going to win it? Hispanic voters. His support, most of the surveys we're seeing, and we're doing surveys and we're doing bilingual surveys in Arizona, and I'm seeing a lot of data there, not just, I can't talk directly with the campaign stuff, but Donald Trump is winning among Hispanic voters. And
really,
the reason why he's winning with Hispanic voters is because of the border and the economy. They hate what's going on at the border because these voters obviously did it the right way. They did it the legal way.
Right.
And they see all the problems that it's caused in a place like Arizona. And what's interesting is in Texas, Greg Abbott's kind of sealed the border in Texas. But Katie Hobbs, the failed governor of Arizona, she's left that border wide open, and it's causing crime problems. It's causing the price of housing to go up. It's hurting the schools. It's hurting hospitals, etc. And people see it, and they know it's a huge problem. And that's one of the reasons I agree.
So if when I do my map to 270 on Wednesday, I should feel fairly good about putting Arizona's 11 electoral votes in the Trump column. You agree?
Yes, I agree with that.
Okay. I just don't feel I think that last time wasn't even an anomaly. I mean, Biden, with everything that went on there, I'll just leave it at that. I would just say that I think Arizona comes back to its natural home, and it shouldn't even be contested. I think with everything that's going on the border. All right. So my next on the list that I think comes home to Trump, same kind of boat for different reasons, is Georgia, right? Right now, Georgia is up 1.4 for Trump in the Real Clear Politics average. He's up 49.2 to 47.8. But, it's just he's right there at that 50% mark. And when I look down at sort of the poll of all polls that Nate Silver does, he's got it in the same kind of bucket. Is that Trump is up basically a point. Here's the question I have, and we're going to go into North Carolina next, so I can ask this right now. Is this Hurricane Helene and the damage that it's done, could that, I mean, we're talking about a point. Is that going to be a problem?
No doubt, and it could affect things. And I got to be honest with you, Sean, I'm shocked that Joe Biden, Kamala Harris are not in a place like North Carolina, because they got hit bad, and they got.
What do you mean? What do you mean not in it?
They're not there. They're not.
But they will be.
They will be, but it's taken them too long. They need to be there now. There's people that don't have power. They don't have water. That's the crazy part. Is you have
but in fairness, and I'm not trying to defend them, but you've got the governor, a Democratic governor. Okay, just to be clear, Cooper saying, I don't want him here right now because he'll take resources away. You got Kamala flying home. I mean, look, I think what you and I are talking about are PR tactics, right? And obviously, we're on the same team on this.
You know what, though? I'm going to tell you a story. I remember when I was working for Governor Bob Riley down in Alabama. I'm working with Governor Riley down in Alabama, and during the during the BP oil spill. It was the BP oil spill. And I remember Barack Obama was coming down, and somebody made a snide comment about Barack Obama. He goes, no, I want him here. And the reason why he needs to be here is because what happens is, he said, when the president is here, the wheels of the federal government tend to work better.
Yeah.
And now's when they need them. And I'm not saying they need to fly in and make everybody stop working, but you need to be on top of that. Where was Kamala Harris? Kamala Harris was in Las Vegas and LA raising tens of millions of dollars from her Hollywood donors.
Oh, by the way, before I forget this, we're on the potential precipice of a port strike. I know this is not the same. And you got Pete Buttigieg in Michigan doing debate prep with Tim Walz. This guy, I mean, I cannot believe Boy Wonder gets away with the crap that he does on the heels of a potential, massive shutdown to our economy, is off playing debate boy.
It's all politics all the time. And what did Joe Biden say? Well, I'm not going to get involved in that strike. People don't realize this is like one of those things. It's almost like electricity.
Would that strike, if that strike happens tonight, okay, how big of a potential polling calamity? Because the thing that I find interesting about this whole dynamic is that Kamala tries to play the I'm in charge, depending on the situation. I have nothing to do with it. Whatever situation it is, either she's very heavily involved and is a decision maker, or she's never heard of Joe Biden. It depends on the scenario where she wants to claim credit for the good stuff or be like, I don't know this Biden guy if it's a bad thing.
It's all politics all the time. And look, I've got friends that work on the docks in Bayonne. Of course I do, right? And they tell me, look, if this lasts a day or two, even a week, people probably aren't going to feel it that much. But if it goes on any time longer than a week, this is really bad for the economy. I mean, it could literally destroy Christmas. And
yeah, I mean, but that's it. It has to. I mean, I think you're right. A few days, it's going to be a couple stories, but it's got to. We have to start feeling it. That's probably about a week, right? And then you're going to see it in the polling. But then the question is, here's my question for you: who gets blamed, Joe Biden or her?
Yeah. Well, the press won't blame either one because
Right?
that's what the
It'll be
press
Donald
does.
Trump's fault for not
Yep.
fixing a port problem that.
And look though, Joe Biden said, she said this on The View, she was there every step of the way. And every time she's asked, what would you have done differently, whether it's on Afghanistan, whether it's on the economy, she was a big supporter of Bidenomics. And that's the thing with her policies. As bad as Joe Biden's policies were, hers will be even worse.
Oh,
Because she's not only supporting all the Biden tax increases, she's got a bunch of her own tax increases.
oh, it's going to get horrible. So let's get back to the map. We're talking Georgia, 16 electoral votes. It's the poll of all polls has it up a point. As I mentioned, RCP has Trump up 1.4. Are you with me that barring something cataclysmic, Georgia comes home as well, and the 16 electoral votes go into Trump's column?
Yep. And I'll give you the fun fact there. Just like you have Hispanic voters that are helping Donald Trump in Arizona,
Yep.
black voters, especially black men in Georgia. I think at the end of the day, Donald Trump's probably going to get at least 25, maybe even 30% of black men in Georgia. And there's precedence for that. We used to work, when we were working for Governor Nathan Deal down in Georgia, he used to get over 20% of the black vote. So, and I think a lot of these black voters, again, they're not happy with the economy, but they also can't stand these open border immigration policies.
So it's like we like Trump and we don't like her. It's the perfect storm.
It's going to come.
All right, let's talk North Carolina for a second. Trump up 0.7 there. The poll of the big Nate Silver conglomeration thing has him up 0.2. So these three states, now obviously this is the least of the three. North Carolina, I think the Dems really want to make a play here. Trump's won it twice, but it's not been by much. And so right now the RCP average has Trump up 48.6 to hers 47.9. That's 0.7. That's pretty much what, Nate Silver has it at 0.2. But so you got Trump with an advantage. This is as close as you can get to a tie, though, favoring Republicans.
Yeah, but again, I still think when you look at those few undecided voters, there's a reason why they're not voting for Kamala Harris. And she's the pseudo incumbent, even though this is a different kind of race because she's the vice president. Donald Trump was a former president. But that's where you're seeing that silent, shy Trump voter among those few undecideds. They overwhelmingly don't like the direction that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have taken the country in.
Okay, so here's the beautiful thing. If Trump takes those three states, Arizona, Georgia, and North Carolina, then he basically, and we'll get to this in a second, just needs to pick off one of their blue wall states and he wins. The interesting thing is Nevada, which goes back and forth, seemingly doesn't matter, right? If he can take Michigan or Pennsylvania, it's still a win for him. It's a lot closer. But so let's kind of cross the Nevada Rubicon first, and then we'll get into the blue wall. But Nevada, I think, is fascinating because as much as I'd like to win it, we don't need to win it, if that makes sense. But yet, it's the thing that I find fascinating in Nevada right now is you've got the RCP average of Harris up about a point, 1.3. She's got 48.6. Trump's got 47.3. But in a lot of the polls that I see, Jim, in Nevada, and I need you to, I see a higher degree of undecided or third party than anywhere else. Why is that?
Why is that? Because, again, I think that's that shy Trump voter. And they've gotten wrecked by the inflation and also the immigration problems. And, again, that's another place where Donald Trump is running well with Hispanic voters, like numbers we've never seen. Like, look, we've always said over the last couple decades, like Nevada's been kind of the one there where Lucy takes the football from Charlie. Yep. But it's different now. It's different.
So the unions, I worry about the unions in Clark County. I do. I worry about them coming in on election day.
But what's interesting? The unions are going to be there for Kamala Harris, but the union workers, they're there with Donald Trump. And I'll tell you, true story, where he came up with no taxes on tips was talking to his employees at his hotel out in Las Vegas. We didn't test that in a survey. She was talking about how gas prices, grocery prices, et cetera, are going through the roof. So he came up with no taxes on tips. And look, the unions are going to come out guns a-blazing, because we all know a lot of these unions, they're nothing more than a bunch of Democrat apparatchiks. But their rank and file is going to vote for Donald Trump. And I think just because they've been hit so hard with the inflation out there and immigration, I think, look, when it's about those two issues, Donald Trump is going to win every single time.
Yeah, the interesting is it's so funny you say that. Like, he's got this gut issue or gut about what issues resonate with people because he actually talks to them. I think that no tax on Social Security, the no overtime, like these are all things that people who are working, right, who are blue collar folks, who are hourly workers go, I get that. I'm with you on that. And it's so funny because they're running these ads now like Donald Trump's rich. And I don't give a crap how. In fact, I'm glad he's rich. And I love the fact that he embraces it, but he also understands, because he hangs around with hotel workers and restaurant workers and construction workers, he understands what resonates with these hourly workers, with these gig workers. And he's like, okay, this is what I'm going to give you. And they get it. That's the thing. I don't think the Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, and just the bubble they live in, that they see these folks. All right, let's move to the blue wall. And let's kind of maybe go in reverse order so that we end at Pennsylvania, because I think all roads end in Pennsylvania right now. So I'll just, for the sake of it, you tell me, of the three states, if you had to say which one do you think Harris has the best chance, Wisconsin, Michigan, or Pennsylvania, where would you tell them, in all honesty, is going to be you have the best opportunity?
Look, I think the fact that this race is coming down to the blue wall, basically the Big Ten election in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, it tells you that Donald Trump is on offense, because
he is. He can win all three. There's no question in my mind. But I'm asking you, and I get your job, Jim, so I'm not trying to put, but but I would just say this. I feel good about Pennsylvania. We'll talk about it in a second. I feel good about Michigan for interesting reasons. I think if you had to tell Harris one place, if you're going to pick of the three states, I would just argue that Wisconsin, to me, because of the universities there, the young people, whatever, you probably have the best shot. It doesn't mean you're going to win it. I think you have the best shot in Wisconsin. Do you agree with that?
And I think just the fact that we're saying maybe Wisconsin is the place for her to have the best shot tells you how weak her campaign is.
Right.
Look, I look at, and everybody says Wisconsin has become the ultimate swing state. And by the way, that's a state where you have a lot of these bad media polls. Because I tell everybody, I remember getting the call from President Trump back in 2020. I think it was an ABC, Washington Post poll right before the election, and Trump down 17 there. And he calls me and he says, "What's wrong with the poll?" And I said, "What's wrong with the poll?" I said, there's samples like plus 15 Democrat. That's just not Wisconsin.
Right.
I mean, it is literally the ultimate swing state.
Well, look, here's the thing. Right now, the RCP average has her up 0.8. I mean, you want to talk about in Wisconsin, right? It's 49.1 to Trump 48.3. That's a turnout game. That's literally like who gets their people out.
And by the way, Sean, and look, everybody, it's an old cliche. You got to turn out your people and blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to tell you, the thing that keeps me up at night is the Democrats, especially with the unions. They have that better infrastructure where it goes with early voting. And we've got to do everything in our power over this next 35, 36 days to catch up with them on that and make sure people vote early. And people are always like, well, why should I vote early? I just feel better about, you never know what's going to happen in life, weather, everything else. And the other thing is with this, you will save the Trump campaign and the Republicans money.
Yep.
Because what happens is once you vote, we're not going to bother you anymore. Once you've cast that vote, we're going to say, hey, Sean Spicer, he already voted. I don't have to call him. I don't have to send him any more mail. I don't have to put him on the digital list and all that other kind of stuff. Go vote. You will save us resources, because the big advantage that Donald Trump has is among a lot of these lower propensity voters. People that don't, Donald, nobody turns out the Republican base better than him. And what's going to
So
happen is,
when you're looking at a poll, because I keep, so like you got Scott Pressler running around Pennsylvania registering these people in Lucerne County, and okay, so when you guys are creating a screen and you've got all these new voters coming on the rolls, I get it. I mean, I've been saying this for a while. That makes your job very hard because you go,
yeah.
okay, Bobby so and so just registered to vote. They feel good about it, but you now have to guess whether he's a likely voter or an unlikely voter, right?
By the way, the new registrants, they're the easy ones because
Why?
they registered to vote. They registered to vote. They came in. New registrants almost always come in and vote because there's a reason why I just registered to vote. I registered because I want to let my voice be heard, whether it's for Kamala Harris or whether it's for Donald Trump, et cetera. And that's usually what's driving it there. But what we're seeing in our surveys is, and we track that in the surveys, if they have no history of voting, new registrant, they've never showed up to vote, et cetera. And then we also look at the people that maybe have only showed up in one out of the last 4 elections. What we're seeing is Donald Trump and the Republicans are doing significantly better with what we call those lower propensity voters. But the tough part is just trying to find those for voter contact as you're going along, because obviously you want to make sure those people vote because they tend to be more disgruntled, more likely to say the country's off on the wrong track.
Right. All right. We're going over to Michigan. I right now, Harris is up 1.4 there, 48.9 to Trump's 47.5. I've got a lot of problems with Michigan, though, if I'm Harris, right? You've got the Arab vote, you got black men outside Detroit, you got auto workers. I'm surprised that this is not actually reflecting more support for Donald Trump.
But I think it's going to get there. But think about it. Look, Wisconsin has elected Donald Trump back in 2016. They elected Scott Walker multiple times. They elected Ron Johnson multiple times. They have a history of voting Republicans. Republicans haven't won statewide in Michigan in a while. And you look at it, though, I'm telling you, people get the message there. And it's not just the 100,000 or so folks that are in the UAW that are actually working on the line. People in Michigan get it, that these electric vehicles, they're bad. People don't want them. They literally don't want these things. Not only that, they need less workers to make them. And look, people want to buy EV. I'm all for it. Let them do it. It's consumer choice. But they get it, that it's going to put people out of business. And I'll give you a good example. Yeah. John McCain, God rest his soul, an American hero. He made a mistake. When he went and campaigned in Michigan, he said those manufacturing jobs aren't coming back. What is Donald Trump's message?
I know. I'm bringing it back.
I'm not just bringing those jobs back. I'm bringing back new jobs. And Donald Trump gets it, because how do you do it? You don't do it just with tariffs. Yeah, that's part of it. That's the negotiation. But you do it by bringing down cost. And that's what he's going to do with his tax policies.
And the trade policy. He did that with trade. And I'll tell you, you put your finger on something that I heard in the 2016 campaign, where people said to me, Sean, the difference is he says, I'm getting your job back and I'm going to fight. And it's like, people said that was, everyone else used to, I'm going to retrain you. I'm going to do this and da, 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 da. He was like, I'm getting your job. I'm bringing it back. I'm fighting China. I'm going to end these mandates, whatever it was. I'm going to stop these unfair trade practices. And people said, now there's a politician who gets it.
And Sean, I got to say this, you hit it on the head before, where they're playing that class warfare stuff. That's why they're doing it, because they know Donald Trump is connecting with those forgotten working class voters.
All right. We end with Pennsylvania because everyone ends with Pennsylvania. Walk me through. You guys do extensive polling in this state. Just give me the lay of the land. Where are we in Pennsylvania? Those 19 critical electoral votes, because Donald Trump wins Pennsylvania. I'm sorry. You can do the math how you want. I don't see how he loses the race for the White House if he wins Pennsylvania. So give me the lay of the land where it is.
I agree with you. And what I saw, this was obviously public information. I think it was in Axios last week. There's been over $300 million, I believe, spent on ads in the presidential race in Pennsylvania between both sides. That's how important it is. And look, if you're Kamala Harris and you've got to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to try to win Pennsylvania, you know something's going on there. And I think they made a big mistake when they didn't take Josh Shapiro over crazy, goofy Tim Walz. And oh gosh, is he? I don't think they had any idea what they were getting with that guy, but that's for another day. But look, it is a hugely, hugely important state. I think it's one of those things where Donald Trump is actually overperforming in places like central Pennsylvania. But again, we're seeing some softness, with the Republicans, not just President Trump, but in those Philadelphia suburbs. But I think he's more than making it up, especially among those black voters in places like Pennsylvania, because they feel like they've been left behind, especially, when it comes to inflation and these crazy immigration policies that they've thrown at us. So, look, yeah, I think you're right. Pennsylvania is as important as it gets.
Before we go, there's a bunch of other. I mean, God, I can go on and on and on because I want to talk to you about the youth vote, black vote. There's so many endorsements and the VP debate and all this. But there's an ad I want to play for you if I can that came out attacking Larry Hogan that I thought was unbelievably unique. And if we can, I want to put that on air and show it to you because it's an outside group attacking him on the issue of abortion. Let's take a look at the ad if I can.
Larry Hogan's word on abortion. Here it is.
I don't understand. On abortion, I'm always been personally opposed to abortion.
Larry Hogan is opposed to abortion.
All right, stop it right there, Jim, because time is short. Here's what I don't get. They're attacking the guy for being opposed to abortion. Who's for it? I mean, this is where I think I can't believe we've come this far in politics. It's one thing I've heard a lot of politicians over time saying, I'm personally opposed to abortion, but I'm willing to have women have the right to choose, whatever. Here is the group saying he's personally opposed to it. What are you, for it? Who's for abortion these days? But how far have we come in our politics? Yeah. Where you get attacked for actually saying, I mean, that was the position of the Democratic Party in their platform, rare, whatever.
Safe, legal, and rare.
Safe, legal, and rare. And now they're like, I can't believe that you actually have the position that we used to have. This is unbelievable that we've come this far in our politics where you get attacked for being against killing babies.
I'll give you two words. They're extreme and they're desperate. And you're seeing that, by the way, all over the country. I don't know really. I'm sure there's a couple that are out there. I don't know any Republican that supports a national ban on abortion. No, I don't know anyone that does. But then they go, whether it's Larry Hogan, whether it's somebody like Tom Kane Jr., it's a race I'm not involved with in New Jersey 7. They're both pro-choice. And they're saying that they want to ban abortion. It just goes to show how.
But it's one thing to ban abortion, and it's another thing to say that you're personally Larry Hogan. Again, I don't agree with his position on life, but you now saying that even if you personally, I mean, that to me shows you how extreme the left has gotten.
Sean, I'm an old guy, and I remember I remember when Mario Cuomo gave a speech at Notre Dame and said, hey, I'm personally opposed to abortion, but I think women should have the right to choose. The media lauded it. They said, oh my God, that is such great thinking and all this other kind of stuff. The media should be attacking them for their hypocrisy, but they don't. Anytime. And think about it. I'm going to give you one more quick example. Remember when Donald Trump came out and said, hey, I believe in the 10th Amendment. I believe in the Constitution. We're going to let the states decide the abortion issue, the ultimate democratic democracy position. USA Today runs a headline that says, Trump opposes national ban. Within a few hours, the White House got that headline.
I'm surprised they didn't run a headline that says Trump believes in old document written by white guys. You actually believe in the rule of law. They'll find a way. Jim, I appreciate you taking the time to run through these states. I mentioned to folks we're going to do the road to 270 again this Wednesday and every Wednesday going forward because we'll use a lot of your insight as we fill in these states. But look, the national media doesn't want us to talk about this because they want to focus on the national polls and the mood. But the bottom line is, and this is where your expertise comes in, we can see it. The path, it's not a path, it's paths to 270. I always appreciate you joining us. Thank you. Look, guys, we got a big week ahead. Tomorrow, the VP debate is happening. Tim Murtaugh, senior advisor of the Trump campaign, we will be going live, as I said at the beginning, for the VP debate. Join us during the debate, the live stream happening on YouTube, and then after the debate as well. Friday, RNC chair Mike Whatley. 270, Road to 270, as I said, Wednesday. So you're going to want to hit that notification button and subscribe on all channels. Thanks for starting the week with us. We will be back tomorrow. Have a great night. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.